Everyone, to another Forever Friends Academy live chat early New Year's edition. All right, let's go, guys. Expectations, labels, caught up in silly love fables. We'll see through the illusions of love to find the treasure in being forever friends. Oh my goodness, it feels so good to be here on the last day of 2023 with you guys. Oh my gosh. We only got a few more hours until 2024. That is so crazy. I hope and pray that you guys all had an amazing, amazing year. This year was filled with so many beautiful moments for me. And I'm looking forward to the new year. I'm looking forward to the new year. So, as per usual, you guys know I'm going to wait, and I know it is New Year's Eve. So, again, I am sure, or at least I pray, that you are snuggled up with your family and your friends, and or maybe partying. I don't know, but in whatever way it is that you're celebrating entering into a new year by God's grace, being able to make it to the last day of another year is amazing. So, whatever you're doing, whether you're partying, whether you're snuggling with your loved ones, hopefully, maybe you get a moment to sneak in with me. So, I'm going to wait, of course, so that I can see if you guys will have a moment to have a nice little chat with me before we enter into this new year. So, of course, as per usual, while I'm waiting, let me introduce myself to those who might be newcomers to my Forever Friends Academy episodes. And my name is Charlotte Cornegay. I am an author, a recording artist, the founder of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy. When I'm on the stage, I go by Charlotte K. That's my performer name. And you can find my music anywhere on all the platforms. I would love for you to peruse my catalog. What you're going to find from me is just love, inspiration, motivation, empowering music, some R&B, some pop. And hopefully, I'm working on a new song that's kind of, I guess, what I consider classic rock. We'll see. But I don't like to put myself in a box. So wherever the creativity flows is usually where I want to go. But nonetheless, hopefully, you'll get some time. Have some of my songs become the soundtrack for your new 2024 year. And I just released my Christmas album, and I know there are folks out there. That's why I put a song on my album called Christmas All Year Long, because I know there are folks out there that like to listen to Christmas music all year long. So if you're one of those and you're still vibing out to my Snowflakes and Gumdrops album, thank you, thank you, thank you. And keep rocking it out. I'm going to check because I want to make sure that the live is, coming okay with IG. I can't see myself over here. I was trying to see if I could. But yeah, so definitely going to wait and see if I get some more people coming in here. Tonight is Relationship Sunday Scenarios. And for any of the newcomers who might be new to the show, basically how the structure of the show is that every Thursday, every Sunday, I come on, I do these live chats, and they're structured like a Q&A, but in a different way. So the way that I usually started off is I started off at the top with a quote, and then a question, and then, of course, we answer it using some of the fundamental principles that I have learned that if you govern your relationship by, that'll help you have more fulfilling experiences, and you'll be able to found your relationship on solid ground so that when those tests of life do come, you guys will be standing firm together with each other. So tonight's Sunday scenario is a little bit different because I present the question, however, I present it in the form of a relationship scenario where I get your feedback on. So that's why I'm hoping that some people will pop in so I can get your feedback. If not, and if you're catching the replay, you can always flood my feed and send your comments there. So First, let's get started on the quote that I wanted. Hey, oh my goodness, Bobby, Justin. Oh my goodness, Erin. Oh my word, my beautiful sis. Thank you guys for popping in with me. I appreciate you guys. All right, so the first thing, and I wanted to save it because I did not want to paraphrase it because I am so good for that, y'all. I'm so good for, for paraphrasing things in the wrong way. So I saved it because I did not want to touch this quote because I honestly thought it was like perfection, just in my opinion. You guys can let me know, right? So at the top of the show, I always introduce a quote and I always ask you if you feel like this quote or this principle, or if you feel like there's principles in it, first and foremost, if you feel like there are principles that you can extract to apply to your relationships, and why. So the quote is, I saw this on Jay Shetty's Instagram today, but I believe it's from, he pulled it from someone else's account on Twitter, and the person's at least username was Gary underscore Black. So I wanted to give, flowers where flowers were due for for the way that he articulated this. So the quote goes, "The best math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of your current decisions." Come on, y'all. Let me say that again, okay? The best math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of your current decisions. Whew. When I saw that quote, y'all, it stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, how, like, just befitting because we're entering into a new year. And I know for a lot of people, including myself, right? It's a new year, it's a nice reset. You kind of feel like it's a blank canvas, it's a new start. Whatever you went through in the old year, you have this new year to kind of venture in to and just become something new. And I love this quote because, it talks about the best math, and the math that we should be calculating all the time is the cost that our current decisions will have on our future decisions. Woo! Right? This is something that needs to be taught in schools on all levels, right? So you guys let me know what your thoughts are on that quote. Let me know, do you like it? Did it resonate with you? Is it something that if you felt you're in a relationship, whether it be an intimate relationship or a friendship or even for that matter, when you're in a business, you think that's something that you're going to apply to your relationship and that it will have a great effect on you. So while I wait for you guys, and let me see, I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone or any comments of people coming in. Okay, making sure. All right. I definitely love that quote. I love that quote because when I saw it, it was a reminder to me that yes, we are entering the blessing of being able to go into a new year, and that is a blessing by far. But your life is made up of each decision or each choice and each action that you make, right? Creates this beautiful journey of your life. It creates this continual journey and movement. And so for me, it was just such a great reminder, not only when I heard the quote or saw it, I started to reflect on what were the things that I incorporated or that I started this year that most definitely will flow into my new year. And I think it's great when we celebrate going into a new year. But this quote really hits home, that the current choices that you are going to make are what, right, is going to create whatever cost for your future decisions. So I definitely think it's something that if you are in a relationship and you have a conversation, definitely a good conversation starter. And let me read it because I see beautiful Brene came in. How are you, lovely? You just came in. I'm at the top of the show and I presented a quote to everyone. And the quote goes as like this: the best math you can learn is how to calculate the future costs of your current decisions. Let me say that again because you know what? Need to be on a t-shirt echoed. The quote goes like this: the best math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of your current decisions. And so I was just saying that I think it's a brilliant quote. It is layered with absolutely so many gems in it. And if you are in a relationship, most definitely it's great when, and I've met, different couples who say that either they have a check-in every month or they have a check-in weekly or bi-weekly, just to kind of check out the domestic economy of their household if it is a marriage, and they're living together and they're trying to figure out what's going on, whether it's their pursuits of their dreams or it's how the household is running, and fine-tuning and sharpening in those areas. But if you have this quote at the center of that conversation, especially when you're making, of course, impactful decisions, pivotal decisions that will change the direction that you both are going in or your life. Whew, that is something that if you keep at the center of your mind, that most definitely, like whatever we're currently doing, is right is going to pour into or have a certain cost into our future decisions. And a lot of times I talk to couples who are dating, who are navigating, going and elevating into marriage. And, I always tell them, like, marriage is not an eraser, right? It's not an eraser. It's not going to magically make, if there are things going on in the relation right in your relationship right now, it's not going to magically just erase it and make it go away. It's going to actually highlight whatever is going on right now. So whatever you have going on in the dynamics of your relationship right now, it is going to illuminate it. It's going to highlight it. It's going to put it at the forefront, and so that you can, deal with it, so you can learn and grow. And so I that's another reason why I love this quote, because it truly is a reminder that yes, certain seasons in life do afford for us to have, like, at least an opportunity, if we seize it, to have a reset button. But all throughout your life, it is most definitely your step by step current decisions, no matter how small or how great they are, that is going to, right, be able to pour into whatever the future experiences that you're going to have, um, and calculate the cost of those future decisions, for your future. And so I love the quote. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing from you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on the quote, and how it resonated with you, and if you really do feel that it is something that you could apply in your relationship, and it um, uh, make a good impact for you. So that's at the top of the show, the quote that I wanted to share with you guys tonight. And tonight is Relationship Sunday Scenario, okay, where I present a scenario to you guys, and you let me know what your thoughts are on it. I like putting some of the things that we talk about in scenarios, because the idea is to be able to look at it from kind of a bird's eye, where you're not in the situation, you're not emotionally entrenched, and therefore you don't have to be easily emotionally compromised by it. But we can use the situation, and then if by some chance there is something that comes up in your life, in your process, in your relationship, you can kind of glean and say, you know what, I remember I was on this podcast and Charlotte said this, presented the scenario, and this kind of seems very similar to it. And maybe it'll be, help you navigate the situation a little more easily. So tonight's scenario is, hey, oh, Mr. Butcher, how are you? How are you? Thank you for popping in. All right, so we're going to get into tonight's scenario. So you guys are going to tell me what your thoughts are on it, and let me know which, I guess, whose perspective or whose angle you kind of agree with and whose you disagree with. So there's a couple. All right, this couple is newly married, and let's just put the setting of the scenario is they're in either a therapy or a coaching session, right? So they're in a session, and the reason why they're in the session is because the husband actually wanted to have this meeting because they're having a disagreement that they aren't able to resolve by themselves, right? And so newly coupled, they do have children. They have, let's say, two boys and a girl. They do have children. They have two boys and a girl. And they let's make it holiday because right, Christmas just passed. So the disagreement that they're having is that they live, let's make them live in California. Right? Let's make them live in California. They live in California, and the wife has relatives that are from, let's say, the East, New York, right? And so holiday season has come around, Christmas, and they have before they um, got married, they would, try to visit her family and then visit some of his family when they were able to, but they were a little bit more closer in proximity. Let's say they got married and now they're in Cali, so they're further away. And the scenario is that the husband felt or feels that they should not travel to go see. And let's say the wife's family, it's her mother, it's her grandmother and aunties. It's a matriarch family. And well, it's predominantly a matriarch family. And he has expressed to his wife that he does not want to travel all the way to New York. And mainly because he says that when he goes there, he feels like there is, I guess, a passive aggressive type of undertone in the way that they speak about men when they go to visit her her mother's house and her grandmother's house, right? And so he says it's kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I would just kind of, I guess, deal with it, for the sake of being amicable. And now, though, they're married and they have children, so it's more responsibility. He's going to have to basically buy tickets to fly the family out and things like that to go. And he feels like for his children, especially his sons and his daughter, it's not an environment that's good for them to be around, and that it will pour into them messages that aren't really going to serve them or is productive, right? So that's his state. So hopefully, I know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it to you guys. It's kind of long. Hey, Maya, thank you, love. All right, so scenario, couple, therapy session, right? Therapy session, the husband does not want to travel to the wife's home for the holidays. Well, not wife's home because that's their home, but wife's relatives' home for the holidays due to the fact that he feels like they have toxic speech, specifically when it comes to men and bashing men, and they kind of wrap it into, I guess, saying it comically or slyly. So he feels like that is not something that, now that he has to take time off of work and fly there and do extra things, he does not want to do. It does not serve him or the children or the whole family for that matter, right? So that's his standpoint. He would like to start a new tradition with them and their household. The wife, however, feels like, no, now she doesn't feel like that's right because she's used to going to her family's household. She feels like now he's trying to be controlling. And as well as she says to him, you married me, I came out fine, and that's the household that I come from. So that is the scenario. That is the scenario. So where do you think, right? And so in the conversation, as the conversation unfolds, again, she feels like he's being controlling, and she had stated as well, as they were talking about it at home, hence the reason why the husband wanted to call the meeting to get a third party who could probably help them resolve the issue, or at least maybe see it from each other's perspectives, I guess in a more holistic way. She said that, well, even if you don't want to go, the kids and I can go. We'll fly out, and go and then fly back to you. And so he feels like, even though you feel like growing up in that household hasn't affected you, he feels like the very fact that she is resistant and okay with just flying and leaving him and taking the children without him is a reflection of how some of that speech and underlying kind of disrespect towards men has seeped into their own household. So that is the scenario, folks. I'm sorry, I was trying to do it fast. Hopefully, I did it fast enough. And there's some of you still here. What are your thoughts? Who do you agree with? Do you agree with the husband saying, like, listen, this is, I work hard, I work long. We have to now put a lot of effort to go. And if we are going to do that, at least let us be in a space where it's an environment where there is love, joy, warmth, not a space that will bring any kind of dissension in our household, or at least make me feel disrespected. Or do you agree with the wife that this is some form of like control that's seeping into the relationship, and he should understand that it's her family, and she wants to go see them, and that it's something that she's used to? Who do you guys agree with? Hopefully I got some of you guys here. And hopefully you heard the scenario fully. But that's tonight's scenario. So let me know what your thoughts are. Okay, I got something from Bernai. Okay, she says the husband had valid points, but you destined the wife wanting to be with her family as well. I know. I think she meant understand. I understand the wife wanting to be with the family as well. I know, right? Maybe they can travel there and stay at a hotel. I like that, Bernai. Sounds like boundaries need to be set with her family too. Maya said I missed the scenario. Girl, do you know how long do you know how long I was like spewing out that whole scenario? All right, in a nutshell, basically, new family, new married couple, they're at a coaching session because there's an issue that they have that they cannot resolve. They feel like they can't resolve just by themselves, so they need an outside party who will help them see, you know, maybe each other's perspectives in a different way. So, in a nutshell, the wife has relatives that live on the East Coast, they're on the West Coast. But the husband feels like they also have three children, two sons and a girl. He feels like when he goes to his wife's family's house, that it's a matriarch, mostly led dynamic with her relatives, and that they tend to say disrespectful things in regards to men. And he doesn't feel like it is something that serves either him or the children or the family as a whole. And he feels like it is really toxic because the way that it's done is kind of done in a very underlying kind of comical way. So it's not direct, it's just kind of set out in a joking manner, but it's said continually. And so at this point, you know, if he's going to take time, especially around the holiday season where his children are going to have, you know, you want to create the best environment to create a memorable situation for them. And so he does not want things to be said that aren't going to, I guess, be able to create the picture or pour into the dynamic of a healthy family that appreciates both. I guess the man and the woman, the husband and the wife in the scenario. However, the wife feels like he is being controlling, and that that's her family. He married her, so even though they might do that, it didn't, in her point of view, it didn't penetrate her to the fact that he couldn't see the good in her, and feels like that will be the same way with the children. So that's the scenario. Brene says keys are compromise and boundaries. She definitely should travel without him though. Big no no. Oh, shouldn't. Yeah. I agree with you. Definitely. I agree with you. And I thought, and mind you, I'm the one coming up with the scenario, right? However, I kind of like was taken aback once I came up with the aspect of him saying, to, I guess, not to counteract what she said, but I guess to express his point of view of her saying, well, it's fine. You don't have to go. I'll just go with the children without you, and I'll be honest. I think it kind of when he said, well, the fact that you feel like, okay, everything's okay, and that it didn't bother you, and that you haven't been shaped by this type of underlying disrespect of the male presence in the household, that your willingness to get up and go and take our children and be separate from me on the holidays just to go to your family is actually a reflection of how that has actually penetrated, right? Who you are and your psyche, and is now coming into our marriage. And I was just like, wow, and I think it definitely kind of jolted me when I was thinking about it, because that's the kind of household that I grew up in. I had a strong, strong Jamaican Caribbean grandmother. And when my mom wasn't there, my aunties was raising me. It was predominantly, it was a matriarch family, and it's predominantly ran by women. And so I will say most definitely, in all honesty, that I had to learn how to harmonize with my husband. Once I got married, I had to actually kind of identify the conditioned behavior that I had learned from my environment, just from being around the women in my family who were doing things because they were single. And so they had to do a lot of things on their own. But now I'm in a dynamic where I'm not single, and somebody has chosen me, and my husband wants to work with me. And I will be very honest with you all that I had to learn. I had to relearn. I had to see some of the things that I felt were natural to me that really weren't. It was just because I had grew up in a household that had an imbalance. And so certain things that came up, where there were decisions that needed to be made or the way that we functioned, one of the main things that I did was like, okay, I need to pause, and really reflect and really think, to see so that there weren't things that if I was just kind of naturally, you know, I guess gleaning towards doing or responding in a certain way because of that environment, I had to really get accustomed to it. So I thought that was very interesting in the story when he said that to her, because I think there's definitely some truth in that. So I agree with you completely. But when you say that, I completely agree with you. So far, I got nice response, which I think is good. What do you guys think about that? Anybody who was listening to what she said, that maybe they can go, that way she can still see her family, but they can stay at a hotel and they don't necessarily have to stay with the family. The only thing the only hiccup I think with that solution is at some point they would have to still go there, right? I guess Bernard's like, well, at least they don't have to stay there like for a long period of time. They can kind of just pop in and come back out. So I guess that's the solution. I guess it depends on how blatant, or steeped. Yeah, I guess it depends on, because certain environments you can go in and you just feel it just from the beginning once you just step into that environment. So I guess it depends um, on what that environment, I guess, really, really looks like, and how heavy those things are um, weighted on the husband. So, yeah, this is one of those. This is one of those scenarios. I think, and I just want to see if I get some more people who might have a response to the scenario before I give you guys my thoughts on it. Hmm. But I think Bernai, her first resolve to this was a pretty good one. Anybody else have thoughts on this? Anybody else have thoughts? Just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Give it a minute just in case someone's typing before I give you guys my summary on this and what my thoughts are on it. So while I'm waiting, I'll give a moment just to say thank you for all of you guys who have popped in with me. I know it's New Year's Eve, so I am just like, you can be, I always say this, you can be anywhere, right? Anywhere. And for you to just pop in, whether it was for a minute, for a couple of seconds, even took time to type, to listen to the scenario, I so appreciate it because your time and your energy is the most precious thing here. So I so appreciate it. I so appreciate it. So, and I'm not going to be long. I'm going to wrap it up because I know it is only a couple of hours before we enter into 2024. So, all right. So I don't see any other comments coming in. So I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this relationship scenario. I do believe that particularly if it's around, oh, wait, I think we have one. Okay, I think, oh, okay, some people were typing. Good thing I waited. All right, Maya says, what would be the most damaging to the kids? And I think that's coming from Nikhail. That option should be avoided. Okay. All right. So this is great because this is a male's point of view. I believe this is Mikhail writing this. What would be the most damaging to the kids? That option would be avoided. There also seems to be some pride at work here. Oh, for sure. Right? Whenever we have these, whenever we have, uh, conflicts like this, it's definitely pride that comes in the way. And it's hard, my husband and I, we like to keep at the center. It's like when we have conflicts and they arise, it's like, okay, we are not losing the war just to win this argument and be right. You know what I mean? It has to come from a place kind of like what Kale is saying. It's like, okay, let's take a step back. I know what I want. I know what you want. Right. And we can just pour out a whole list of our addendums and dockets and lists of why we should go with what we believe. But at the end of the day, I think it is when you start asking questions like this, like, right, what would be the most damaging to the kids, and kind of present it right in that way, then you can kind of jump out of yourself and then be able to kind of look at it in a more holistic way. So I love some of the points that you put up, that you expressed, Nikhail. And Pranay says she definitely should not travel without. I love Pranay. She said in capital letters, NOT, she should not travel without her husband. I completely agree with you. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, beautiful Shoshana. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for popping in with me. And Bernai says, good point, Kale. Yeah, right? Absolutely. And I appreciate that. Good to get the male perspective. And Maya says, are the kids old enough for this to be a good learning experience? Interesting. Okay, so when I was making up the scenario, the kids were like, 8, 6, and let's say 12. I had them somewhere in there. So none of them are like teenagers. And she said, are they too young to understand? Well, my answer on that, I'm a firm believer that I don't care what age your child is, unless it's like a baby, you know what I mean? And even with a baby, because of how brilliant the way God created our bodies, and our minds. And we know this to be true. Anybody, people, someone like Bernai and me, and mothers who have held children, right? And that the child literally feels everything while they're in your body. Right, while you're in whatever the environment that you're in, while you're carrying that child, literally can affect the child before the child even comes into physical kind of like existence, right? So I think when you have that kind of question, are they too young to understand? I think there are ways that we can wrap principles and lessons to our children at any age that they are. So I think in that sense, I don't think that they're too young, because energy is energy and environment is environment. I've seen many people, including myself, say, I am not going to, you could be around someone who you feel like is the most negative person, and say, I am not going to be like them. You know, what they're doing is not something, it's not who I am, it's not what I stand for. But you grow up in that environment long enough, right? Even if it's not overtly doing the obvious negative things that they did, you will find in reflection how some of those things filter in a different way, even if it's filtered in a way of your defense, right? Creating coping mechanisms or defensiveness and going through life on the defense, because you felt like you were in a situation where you had to cope, right? So you're not overtly being a negative person. However, you are not truly being freely of who you are, right? Of who God intended you to be, which was to navigate this life boldly with faith, right? So even in the sense of that, so I think in the situation where the father is saying that this is not going to serve our family, and our children, I think he's right in that. And I do think he was right in saying that you saying you're going to, fly out without me with the children is a reflection of what being in that environment is now coming into our household, which is, I guess, why he's saying we need to clearly look at this and not just do things by default, but see how this is actually serving us. So really good questions though, Maya, and things to come out. And I think, and Brene says, maybe too young to articulate, but never too young to feel. Say it again. I had to stop because what she said, what she said was so good. Let me actually finish her statement because it was so bomb, right? So Brene says, maybe too young to articulate, but never too young to feel and experience trauma. And unfortunately, many of us know that to be true, right? And I think that's one of the main reasons that Ben and I, and we try to keep it definitely in our immediate family, and even to some of our extended families, we've had meetings, we've had family meetings with children of many different ages, and we just try to explain certain things to them at the best that we can at their level, because it is so true what she said. We're never too young to feel and experience the trauma. So, I know that I've spoken to many different people, as well as my own experience, that you're not too young to feel and experience the trauma. So therefore, oftentimes you're feeling and experiencing that trauma, and there's no kind of explanation. There's no talking, there is no working it out to counteract it or to help you process it, right? Until you get older, and now you have to go through all of these layers. So I think it's important in understanding that truth, that you're never too young to feel it and experience it. So then we should definitely find ways to articulate it, or at least provide space and opportunity to talk. So I love all of your guys' statements. Welcome, MP Roland, and this is Kale. Nikale, he says they definitely need to do whatever they decide together. So he's on the same page as Bernai, saying, do not by any means necessary, fly without your husband and take, and separate the family. I completely agree with you guys. If they go together, they could use it as a teaching experience for everyone, kids included. So that's interesting. That's interesting. So you guys feel like, if they do go, then use it as a teachable moment. And I'm curious to see what that would look like. I guess on their own time, they go in with the family, and if something is going on, then they can kind of explain afterwards. So yeah, that's definitely an angle for sure. And I guess that's why, I'm just thinking from the husband's perspective, because most men, they're going to express their emotions and their love for their family by giving guidance, by giving instruction. And sometimes that's, dismissed or misinterpreted in that way. And they definitely are going to want to protect and provide for their family. And maybe he's thinking that way because he is just, but more so, I need to protect my family, even if this is something that they're not seeing in the moment. So I'm curious to see if maybe he's not hearing that or what you guys are presenting right now. So, Maya says, in a godly marriage, it is outlined who should have the final say for better or for worse. Ooh, girl, you trying to start something saying that. Um, hmm. So I guess in you introducing that, you're saying that the husband should have the final say in this matter. Huh. What is everybody's thoughts on that one? Hey, super producer. So you guys have thrown out a lot of things, a lot of good points, a lot of different, I guess, options that can be taken. I think they can make it a learning experience. That could happen also with them staying home. What I'm curious about that I haven't heard you guys talk about is when he says to her, I want to start our tradition, you know? And by no right, and also in this conversation, he's not saying they're never gonna go over there, right? He is just saying that because of the time, right? The season's around holiday time, it's Christmas. We all know that if it is a household that celebrates Christmas and depending on, I guess, how far they go in the celebration, if there are gifts to be given, right? Anyone who has had or have little children, you know that there's heightened emotions and things like that. So I guess people can argue both ways. They can be like, okay, because they're heightened emotions and, you want to create the best memories for them around that time. I guess that's his argument. And maybe someone can argue the other way around, like they're not going to pay attention to anything that's going on because they're going to be so entrenched in whatever toys or whatever technology that they got for Christmas that it'll be over their head. So that's one dynamic, possibly true, but it doesn't solve the dynamic of what, I guess, the possible division that it can cause between the husband and the wife, who clearly they're not like the children, and they have the aptitude to process and understand everything that's going on. So it's like you have to put all of those things into context. Wow. So I think for me in this situation, I think I agree with the husband. I do think I agree with the husband. And the only reason why I say that, well, it's not the only reason. I guess there's two top reasons why I agree with him. Is one, Ben and I, we always talk to couples, and when I talk to them, let me say that because he's not here right now. When I talk to couples, it's always that it needs to be you and your partner first, right? It needs to be the husband and the wife first because you guys came first, right? You guys made choices to either accept the choice that your husband made in you, and to choose one another and to create this life. and to create your own love story, and the kids come after, right? And so we always want to keep that at the forefront because we have to keep that dynamic healthy no matter what. Right, we have to keep that dynamic healthy in order for to create an environment where the kids can reap the benefits. Really, right? They're just reaping the benefits off of the intentionality and the constant daily choices that their parents are making to create an authentic, loving environment that is conducive, right, of the character and the nature of God, that they can benefit from. And so I think if it's not the case that, you're never going to be able to go over there and see your family, again, it's not that's not the case, but it is the fact that, okay, there are certain moments and certain, traditions. People have great attachments and memories when it comes to traditions that they do, and those traditions can even be expressed or as rituals, even though some people get, like, did she just say rituals? I just mean that a ritual is an action or something that you do that is deeply connected to you for whatever reason, right? So traditions and rituals are important because those are the things that help really a lot of people feel or maintain certain consistent habits and disciplines that will hopefully propel them and continue to make them progress. And so there are certain, family moments and family traditions that they get deep down, in our subconscious. And don't get me wrong, if you're in an environment where it's kind of like toxic every day, of course, that is going to affect you. But for the sake of the context of the scenario that I brought up, their family dynamic is not like that, right? And they are quite aware, because it's not like the wife is not aware. She is quite aware that her family can tend to say certain things in a certain way that can kind of belittle and demean the male presence because of just the imbalance and the absence of it throughout the years. So I would say, for the sake of, again, for them coming together and staying in harmony with each other, being able to create a new tradition is not a bad thing. And I do agree with you guys to create a learning moment and a teachable moment for their kids in this. And I think one of the ways to do that is to by action, create that dynamic in the household, then have conversations with them about it so that now, as they get older, and they do visit, the times that they do go and visit their other extended relatives, they've not only been prepared because their family, their mother and father is actually creating, demonstrating that dynamic in the household, and has also afforded them opportunity to talk about it, that now when they go in that environment, it's a lot easier for them to understand. It's a lot easier for them to process. I think, I know I have been in the past been thrown into scenarios where it's like a learning situation, but there was no kind of, like I said, conversations that were had, right? There was no prepping me for it. And unfortunately, sometimes many of us have grown up in broken families. So sometimes you feel like you didn't really have a choice. You had to kind of just be thrust into this situation and then try to learn as much as you could as you go. But if we're having a dynamic where this is a solid family and it's a healthy relationship, you can kind of tell that, because it's not like he was just like, even in what Maya said, where it's like, okay, it's outlined in God, who would have the last say in that scenario. He's not even trying to do that. He's like, okay, let's go. Let's go to a coach. Let's go to a therapist, and let's kind of figure out, and assess what's going on. Um, and I think also the reason why I agree with him is because I feel like his perspective and his point of view is the least selfish in the situation. And the reason why I say that is because he is thinking about not only how it possibly is affecting him, but he's also thinking about how it's affecting the wife. He's also thinking about how it's affecting the children. The wife is like, this is something that I'm used to, and I'm aware that this is happening, but I came out fine. My kids will come out fine as well. And we can't negate the fact that she said, well, I will take the kids and go without you, So even though we know that when we go into relationships, it's two flawed people coming together, right? No matter how healthy your dynamic of the household that you came up in, we all have something that, right, that we're going to have to process or deal with. We're just flawed people. And that's the beauty in relationships, because even though I'm flawed, even though you're flawed, I still choose you, right? I still choose you. Because I can't judge you just because what you're dealing with is not the same thing that I'm dealing with, right? So we know that we're flawed. God is not, thank God, right? Love is perfect. So we can kind of always know that we can go towards love. We can go towards seeking the character and nature of God to transform not only us individually, but our relationship and our family collectively. And so I think there's nothing wrong with being able to state and see where there has been some patterns and dynamics in our family, the families that we grew up in, that we want to change now, those dynamics. There'll be certain traditions that you want to keep. There'll be some certain traditions that you're like, no way, we're not going to take this in with us. I just have close friends who are getting married in 2024, and that was one of the questions I asked them. I said, what are some of the traditions, from your families that you want to continue on? What are some that you're like, oh, no, you know? So I think that's what this scenario kind of brought up. And I think it's so amazing. And that's why I like to put these scenarios out here, because how well, I guess it's not too simple, but just how a scenario can bring about so many, right, different lessons and principles that can kind of come out of it, that allows us to kind of reflect, So that's my take on it. I love all of your feedback that you gave me. I think, you guys were the therapist here. You guys were the coach. And I think if they were in front of a coach, if they asked them certain questions like the ones that you guys presented, and definitely made direct statement like what Bernai and Nikhil said, do not travel without your husband, right? Let's kind of state that first and foremost. We are not going to do that, but maybe we can introduce some of these questions, some of these options to see if they can come to a resolve. But it's surprising. It's surprising how much of a pull, how much of a hold, right? Being brought up in certain environments, and you're living and you're doing these things. That's what discipline is, right? When you're doing something over and over and over again, or living in a certain situation or a certain dynamic and circumstance over and over and over again, it's hard, even if you are trying to not absorb those things, to not have it affect you in a certain way. Like I said, it might not be that as they say, hurt people, that maybe you have decided and committed in your heart, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to perpetuate the hurt or the trauma that I've experienced. However, for many of us, because we've experienced that that trauma and that hurt, we often build up coping mechanisms and defensiveness. And one thing that I can say that I have had the grace to learn, God has been gracious enough, and my husband has been patient enough, is to know that love is not defensive. It is offensive, because there is no competitor to God, right? He is the author and creator of all things. And so when I really rest in that, I don't want to move defensively, whether it be towards my husband, whether it be towards the pursuit of my dreams and what I feel like I'm born to do here. I want to exude, completely and wholly, pouring out all of who I am offensively, and not wait for moments in life to trigger me to do so. And that's why, bringing it back full circle, while we kind of close this conversation, back to the first quote that I said to you guys. I'm going to read it from my phone because I really don't want to mess it up. And there are some people who came in late who might have not heard it, but it was a quote that I saw on Jay Shetty's Instagram. It's not from him, but it was there. And it said, "The best math you can learn is how to calculate the future costs of your current decisions." So hopefully you guys can know how it kind of tied into the scenario tonight, about them having this issue of what decision to make. And if you can go into the new year with anything, I think that's a great quote to go into the new year with, because yes, it's a new year, but the same you is going into that new year. And I think it's a great time to reflect on some of the current things that you've decided to do this year that is already going to, have an effect on the future experiences that you're going to have. So guys, thank you guys for popping in with me on New Year's Eve at that, okay? I know some of you guys probably doing a church service, maybe with family, etc. So I appreciate you guys, and for all the feedback and the comments. You guys would be great coaches. I know Bernai is actually a coach, so that makes sense. Health fitness, and overall well-being coach. Check her out. If you're on Instagram, it's Flourish Wellness Retreat 23. Check her out. She's amazing. She also has a retreat yearly, I believe, and hopefully, I don't know if she's on here, but she can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's for women. I don't know if she does one for couples yet, but it's for women. But nonetheless, she trains both men and women, but just specifically for that retreat, I know what I saw was women, but you can always correct me, Benai, if the men are also able to come. So check her out, and I appreciate you guys, and have a happy new year, an amazing new year, and hopefully you come back to me and we'll have some more of these great conversations. All right, so I am going to end this live, and I will talk to you guys soon. All right, and before I forget to do this, if you are on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment. All of my full videos will be there. If you guys are wanting to get a little bit more coaching from me, I do have a group coaching membership called Forever Friends Academy. If you're on IG, you can click the link on my bio. If you are on YouTube, it'll be in the description. That's where you can kind of get specific answers to maybe some of your relationship topics or issues or situations. And of course, I do one-on-one coaching as well. So you can find all of that there in the link. So absolutely have a good night, guys. I appreciate you, and Happy New Year. And always remember to live to love freely. Bye.